The title of our project is Screened Out or Connected and focuses on how social media use and in-person interactions can affect team happiness. My name is Timothy He, and my project partner is Ivan Shin. For our objective questions or what we want to focus on, we want to focus on the relationship between interactions and screen time and overall happiness. More specifically, does in-person social interaction affect overall happiness, and is the relationship between daily social media screen time and happiness among teens? So why do we choose this topic? Our generation spends more time online than any other, and more often or not, we hear about a hotly debated issue on if screen time is good or bad for people. And we often notice how friends often feel more lonely even though we spend more time hanging out online. So overall, we want to look at and understand whether screen time actually affects happiness instead of just believing these stereotypes. And we want to also look into social interactions effect on overall happiness and if screen time actually relates to a worse mental state.
So before we get into our actual presentation, let me give you some background research that we did. So this is based on these two sources over here, this one and this one. Uh, and we actually found that social media isn't just simply good or bad. Its impact actually depends on how teens use it. Positive and inspiring content can boost well-being, while negative experiences like bullying or comparison can lower it, obviously. So a teen's mental health and lifestyle still play a big role in how they're on their mental health and since almost all teens use social media and are using it more intensely, it's important to teach them how to use it in healthy ways, not just warn them about the risks. So our second piece of background research over here is based on this little graph, and it actually shows that social interactions make young adults happier. Loneliness is increasing among young people. 19% of young adults have no one to rely on for support. Early friendships can boost long-term well-being. Young people underestimate how caring other people are. More and better quality relationships equals a higher life satisfaction, and small social interactions can actually reduce stress. And that is what we found based on this background research.
Going back to our survey questions were how many days per week do you hang out in person with friends outside school? On average, how many hours per day do you spend on social media? And how satisfied do you feel overall with your life from a scale of 1 to 10? So the variables we wanted to test for explanatory, there were daily social media screen time usage in terms of hours, and then also frequency of hangouts with friends in terms of days. And our response variable was overall happiness rating, and our categorical, which we explain into later, we chose mode, transportation versus sleep quality. So focused on when we're focusing on univariate data observations, we're looking at the distribution of time spent on social media and the distribution of days spent with friends. We found that both graphs were strongly rightly skewed with high variability. And for time spent, the mean hours was 3.5 day hours, and the mean days for days spent with friends was 2.01 days. Next, going to bivariate data, where we compare hours spent on social media and overall living satisfaction, and days spent with friends and overall living satisfaction. The data there wasn't a strong correlation between the data and our line of best fit, but there was a strong correlation between days spent with friends and overall living satisfaction, which suggests that it was more like as you spend more days with friends, you overall have higher living satisfaction. So overall data summary, when it comes to looking back at our two graphs that we saw, there was a small correlation coefficient from our response data for both graphs, which shows that there's a recorrelation between hours spent on social media and days spent with friends and overall life satisfaction. It is, however, higher for graph two, which does show there's a strong relationship between those two parts. And additionally, the R square value shows that only 1.4% of the data from graph one and 11.1% of the data from graph two can be explained by our linear models. The slightly positive slope of our line of best fit does go against our research on the idea that more social media screen time results in higher life satisfaction, but supports the idea that more social interaction results in higher life satisfaction. Our wire intercept shows that without social media or days spent with friends, the average person grades their life satisfaction as a 5.3 to a 5.7. So continue our bivariate data analysis for our two-way frequency table. We ended up choosing the two category topics of how you get to school on most days and how would you describe your sleep quality. This relates because when it comes to how you get to school on most days, we believe that if you're able to drive yourself, you're more likely to hang out and spend time with friends versus having using other means of transportation to school. And the overall sleep quality relates to the idea of how satisfied you are with your life. As overall average to good sleep quality should suggest that you're more satisfied. And based off these suggestions, we found that there is a relationship as 22 out of 28 people who drive themselves have an average to good sleep quality, while only 19 out of 33 people who get to school through their parents taking them have an average to good sleep quality.
So going to designing our own experiment. Our statistical question was, does replacing 40 minutes of passive social media scrolling each day with a different activity lead to a noticeable increase in student happiness? And what we expect is that replacing passive scrolling with more meaningful activities may actually increase happiness, but we won't know what activity will help the most yet. So the reason for our question, our survey showed that many students spent a large amount of time passively scrolling online. And although many students reported higher happiness levels when their screen time was high, we suspect this is due to the nature of Oxford Academy students, as research actually suggests otherwise. This made us interested in whether changing just a small part of daily behavior can make a difference in how students feel. Since there's no clear answer, this is a good question for experiment. So our a bit of our population example, it would be our Oxford Academy students, with around 100 students who volunteered to participate in our survey. So this method is convenient sampling, and the procedure will be those who sign up will be getting a form or email to fill out every week. The type of experiment is a randomized control study, and students will be blocked by grade level and type of activity. And we'll go into that more later. So our treatments and control groups. So our first treatment will be replacing 40 minutes of passive scrolling with 40 minutes of active social media use, like messaging friends or commenting. Treatment two will be replacing it with 40 minutes of in-person social interaction. So that'll be like interacting with friends, interacting with teachers, just any face-to-face kind of interaction. Our third treatment will be replacing 40 minutes of passive scrolling with 40 minutes of a creative activity such as drawing, music, or writing. And our control group will be just the normal behavior. Our plan for randomization is after our survey, the students will be placed into grade level blocks. And within each block, students will be randomly assigned into one of the three treatment groups or the control group. And this random assignment ensures that the differences between groups are due to treatment and not other factors, and our plan for control principle. The control group provides a baseline for comparison. Every group will receive the same number of reminders and will complete the same survey at the same times. This ensures that the only major difference between groups is the activity that they perform. And the plan for the replication principle, since this is a survey or since this is a study that will be happening within around 100 people, we have sufficient evidence to say that this can meet the replication principle. And this is just an overall diagram of our study. It's basically, we already went over this, and the step-by-step procedure is these 8 steps. Our plan to display the data will be using a table that shows average happiness score before and after the experiments, a bar graph that will compare the changes in happiness across the 4 groups, and a line graph that might show the average daily change in mood of students. Our anticipated conclusion is that if one or more treatment groups show a greater improvement in happiness than the control group, then we can conclude that the replacement activity has had a positive effect on the students' well-being. And our anticipated strengths and limitations. Our strengths will include random assignment, blocking by grade, multiple treatment groups, and a clear comparison of with the control group. So it has many strengths, but the limitations would include the short length of the experiment, the use of self-reported data, and the fact that the sample is based on volunteers, which might not represent all students. And this is our step 8, the action plan. Our action plan is to encourage students to improve emotional well-being by reducing passive social media scrolling, promote healthier forms of interaction such as in-person connection or creative activities, create school-wide digital awareness, and suggest students replace a part of their daily scrolling with activities that support connection. Our hoped results are that students will become more aware of their own scrolling habits after seeing our project. Students recognize that passive scrolling often happens during stress or boredom, where they're most vulnerable, and we hope that several students are willing to try to replace at least 10 to 20 minutes of their daily scrolling with healthier activities. And we hope that overall the project will encourage open discussion about mental health, social media use, and the importance of an in-person connection. This is our this is our actual step 8 that we have already done. We made these detriments of passive scrolling little pamphlets, and we posted them on our story. So hopefully try and reach out to Oxford students. And thank you for listening to our presentation.